Hey, hey, it's the Living on the Verge podcast, and this is your host, Virginia. Welcome to another episode. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to be covering the Valley Part 1 reunion, and I want to just jump in because this was given. It was really, really good. Way better than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time talking about the outfits. I thought Janet was by far best dressed. She looks terrific, and I would not put it past her to have worked really, really hard just to show all the haters how great she could look and give them something else to talk about, I guess. Congratulations, Janet. Adderall and Pilates seem to have worked for you, and you look terrific. Jason, on the other hand, I didn't like his all-black look. I'll just leave that there. I think he could have done a lot better. And especially, I don't know if anybody else caught this, but I did. The blacks weren't all the same color, so it looked a little bit odd. He's still a handsome guy, and they made a beautiful couple, but I just thought he missed a little bit on the look. Now, as far as Kristen and Nia, they looked gorgeous. They were glowing, beautiful baby bumps, nice choice of gowns. And I honestly thought that Danny looked good too. Brittany's never my favorite. We have very different taste in clothing. And Jesse's pants, were saying, "Hi, I'm Jesse, and these are my pants." And so, yeah, those are my thoughts on the outfits. I thought the background of kind of imitating just their houses. They had that picture of Jax with little crews being tossed up in the air. I'm not sure exactly what they were trying to achieve, except to maybe copy what their houses look like. But honestly, this was a really, really interesting Part 1 reunion. It starts off with a series of flashbacks to Jax and Brittany, and it's really kind of sad. They look so young and so full of love and hope when Jax proudly announces that they are not going to have a prenup because they're going to be together forever, and all of the other instances that they show where they're just blissfully in love. And then they show, to start the reunion, the clip of her saying that she wouldn't touch that D with a 10-inch pole. So we can tell that there's going to be a lot of conflict between Brittany and Jax, who both have first seats on either side of Andy. And Brittany says that Jax is prolonging the divorce because he called her a few days ago, or a few days before, obviously, the taping, and had told her that he was going to hold off on finishing the paperwork because there was a chance that he might get let go from the show, and if so, he wanted to sue her for alimony. Well, first of all, your attorney must be a dumbbell if he didn't tell you, or he or she didn't tell you, not to discuss any of the proceedings at the reunion. Secondly, wow, that says a lot about who you are as a human being, that you're actually waiting to get canned so that you can soak your soon-to-be ex-wife. But it's right in line with everything else that we've learned about you this season, Jax. So it goes very well with my change of opinion, and I'm not surprised by it at all. Kristen starts out by apologizing to Janet, which I thought was very gallant of her. And she's apologizing for, in particular, the scene coming off of the boat in Hawaii where she threatens to beat her up and then calls her a whore. She clarifies that she doesn't think that she is a whore and that she did not feel that that was her finest moment. And I agree, but I'm very impressed that Kristen took the moment to disarm Janet right out of the gate. I mean, it really is going to serve for a much better reunion, I hope. Well, Andy starts his questioning by talking to Kristen and Nia, who are both very, very pregnant and just 1 week apart. At the reunion, Janet was just over 33 weeks and Nia was just around 34 weeks. We now know they have both had beautiful baby girls, and they're about 6 and 7 weeks old, I believe now. I am so happy for them. It seems to me like This was life-changing for Kristen in particular, but also it's what Nia wanted to be able to move on. And so good for both of them. I hope you're able to get some sleep whenever possible. And so all of this talk of babies led to the revelation that Danny intends to get a vasectomy after this child. And Brittany makes a comment that Jax needs one too, otherwise he's going to have 20 babies mamas. And it leads to a conversation about whether or not Jax is having safe sex. And he tries to shame Brittany, talking about how he found condoms all over the place. And she says, well, at least I use them. And then Jax all but admits that he doesn't have safe sex. Ew. Nia and Kristen have become super close friends. Kristen tells us that she couldn't have done it without Nia. And the most surprising part of this, because it stood to reason that they would, remain, or that they would get close throughout their pregnancy. But the surprising part to me was the fact that Kristen was complaining to Nia for the first 2 or 3 months of her pregnancy. And Nia was also pregnant and never said a word to Kristen. And because they were keeping it quiet until they got further along in the pregnancy, which is obviously their prerogative. But the point is that Nia was being a really good friend. She was handling all of Kristen's crazy and her questions, her insecurities, her complaints, all without saying, I'm going through the same thing too, for the 4th time. Well, it's her 3rd pregnancy because she had twins, but you know what I mean. Well, Andy then talks to Nia about her body image. And remember that episode during the season where she goes to see the really gnarly plastic surgeon? And Nia says to Andy that she thinks it's okay to want to feel good inside of your own skin. And I don't know how I feel about this. This woman is absolutely gorgeous, and we've talked about this before, but you know what? It is true. You're only as gorgeous as you feel. And if you want to do something to make yourself feel better, then that should be your prerogative. And people shouldn't shame you because in their eyes, you're already beautiful. So they believe you shouldn't be doing anything else. That's kind of how I feel about it. Now, whether I think she needs anything done or not is immaterial. It's not my body. It's not my life. She does make a point that she feels a little bit of the pressure because, they do live in Hollywood and she is kind of in that scene. And that part of it makes me sad because I would like to see a day when body shaming and self-image is something that, body shaming would be gone, and positive self-image is something that comes from within or from your upbringing because you're raised to be confident and believe that whatever body you were given is perfectly fine. Now, that's not to say that I don't think you should eat well and exercise and take care of yourself, but I don't think you should spend your entire life mentally beating yourself up for how you look on the outside. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's just move on. I know that she can't wait to have her mommy makeover, and Brittany said she's going to join her. And I wish you both all the best and a really speedy recovery when it does happen. Andy and Michelle's conversation about children, it just didn't age well. We now know that Aaron and Michelle have broken up, but Andy gets into a conversation with Michelle about whether or not all this baby talk is giving her baby fever and making her consider wanting to have a child with Aaron. And she tells us that Aaron wanted a bunch of children, but she ruled that out right from the beginning. Kind of makes me wonder if that might not have been one of the bones of contention in their relationship, because we're still not hearing very much about what's going on or why they broke up or what happened. So for whatever reason, this one is staying pretty well covered and quiet, and good for you guys, I guess. But she says that she does want to have a child with Aaron. And then she goes on to say that, engagement is in the plan. And so that whole segment just didn't age well, knowing what we know today. But then Andy asked Michelle what caused her to finally want to actually leave Jesse. And she said that it was several things. He was constantly diminishing her. She was constantly being mistreated. It wasn't just one thing. And She was afraid to do it, but she just realized that she didn't want to feel that way for the rest of her life. And so the anniversary came and went, and she got to thinking about it and decided, you know what, I just don't want to do this. And even though she was scared, she asked him for a divorce. I don't know, you guys. Do you think that there will be a rekindling of these two? For some reason, in my heart, it doesn't feel like it's over between these two. Now, whether or not they'll end up back together and all of that stuff, I don't know about all of that. But I feel like there's some unsettled, unresolved tension. And I don't think this is the end of Jesse and Michelle. For whatever reason, that's my gut. Andy then asked Jesse what it's like to co-parent and how things are going. And Jesse ends up using comments that he's read online to back up his claim that Michelle and he are both weaponizing Isabella. Well, Michelle does not take kindly to this and immediately sets him straight and says, I am not weaponizing Isabella at all. Well, the whole issue and the whole conversation over Isabella stems from the fact that Michelle's mom was dying and Jesse did not want Isabella to see her, but not just never, until such time as they had gotten professional guidance and assistance on how to talk to a then, I believe, 3-year-old about mortality and the fact that her grandma was dying. So although I understand that it's a touchy subject, I'm Team Jesse in wanting some guidance for this. But if he took it as far as to make it an issue, which according to some of the things that Michelle said, it sounds like he may have been using it for control, then I'm not for that. So I think that thankfully Isabella did get to see her grandma before she passed away. So really all of this is moot, and so is the drama and the fact that they both use the word weaponizing when it came to Isabella. So they start talking about the divorce proceedings themselves, and somebody states that Jesse is representing himself, and Jesse says he watched Suits, which, qualifies him, of course, to be his own attorney. He says there's a war of attrition going on between the two of them and that it must end. And so is he being the bigger person? He thinks so, but Michelle disagrees. Jesse says he is still with his girlfriend from Orange County, and Michelle has no relationship with her whatsoever. She tells Andy that she wants nothing to do with her, no communication at all. And then Jesse digs himself into a hole as he starts talking about the rules of being of a child meeting a male versus a female. So to clear a little bit of that muddy statement up, the comment was made that Jesse thought it was okay for Isabella to meet Lacey because she was a woman and a mother, while he did not want Isabella to meet Aaron because he was a man. I don't agree with that at all. In fact, almost everybody on the panel called bullshit on it. And Jesse, I think you were grasping at straws and using it as a method of controlling the situation. And, sadly, we don't get to do that. When a relationship is over, you don't get to continue to dictate how that person lives their lives. And sometimes the relationship ends because of the fact that there was so much control. So someone like Michelle is going to dig in her heels and really fight for control because she's finally free of feeling like she's under your thumb. So for you to then tell her when she can and cannot introduce your daughter to people makes sense as far as a conversation you two should have and decide together. But for it to be okay for you but not for her, nah, sir, I disagree. Then Brittany chimes in and she tells us, well, she's actually talking to Jesse, but she tells us that at Melissa's party at Tom Tom, Lacey was talking really badly about Jesse. And she tells Jesse, I really don't think that she likes you at all. She says, I even felt bad for you because she was just really speaking poorly of you. She was being dismissive. And even though Jesse kind of stops it and says, don't feel bad for me, the facial expression in that moment says it all. I think he was surprised to hear this comment, and he was trying to put an end to the moment, but his eyes said, I'm really hurt. Andy switches his attention, thankfully for Jesse, to Jax and Brittany. And Jax tells us he's going to therapy every Monday. This is his 4th therapist, but it's working. And Brittany tells us it's not working because he's still arguing with her every day. And she flat out asks him if he's on steroids. She says, if it's not alcohol and it's not drugs, why are you still so angry if you're not doing anything else? None of this is helping. So there's your answer on whether or not therapy is helping Jax, at least from Brittany's perspective. And Jax says that he wished he had given in and done therapy years ago. And even though he didn't think it would have saved his marriage, he thought it would have helped him. So shoulda, woulda, coulda. Then we move over to the budding friendship between Jesse, Kristen, and Luke. We already know that this is a result of the text that Kristen sent to Jesse, kind of giving him kudos for owning up to the stuff that he had done last season. And then over the hiatus, they got close because Kristen went over. We saw that during the tea party they had early in the season. And ever since then, they've gotten close. So it is what it is. Their relationship seems legit, and Luke is now very fond of Jesse as well. And Michelle chimes in and says, wow, if only they knew how you used to talk about them, because I know how you used to feel about Kristen. You would think that this is going to start some crap, but it doesn't. Kristen turns to Michelle and says, you don't know how I used to feel about him either. So good for you. And when did Kristen become the voice of reason? There's no more crazy Kristen, unless you fuck with their friends, of course, which we all know. But, oh my goodness, the new mommy has grown up on us. Look at her. So then we move on to the conversation about how Jesse can cry at the drop of a hat. And Michelle tells us that she's just naturally very guarded, and therefore the fact that he can cry at the drop of a hat lends him pity with other people. And of course, someone is going to feel bad for a man who's crying. I don't know. I think that that could be seen both ways. But I think now who's weaponizing who? Because in my opinion, you are weaponizing his ability to emote. You are basically making fun of the fact that he can express his feelings. And I don't like that either. I feel like in some way you're trying to shame him because he's a sensitive human being. And you're trying to get us to believe that it's all bullshit. Now, maybe sometimes it is. I don't know the man like you do. I wasn't married to him. But Jesse maintains that he is not fake crying when he cries. And from my one-on-one, face-to-face interactions with him, he is an emotional dude. I mean, he emoted different feelings, different expressions. And in our conversation, I could tell he was a sensitive human being. So I don't find it that far-fetched that he's able to cry. And if you don't want us to label you as cold because you consider yourself guarded, then maybe you shouldn't be labeling him either. I don't know. I just thought it was rude, and I did not like her attacking his vulnerability like that. Turned out the boys' chat started at Schwartz's wedding when Katie and Tom got married all those years ago. And it's since had an evolution of sorts. But listen, don't be fooled. This isn't really a boys' chat. All of the girls have been privy to the nonsense and the pictures. including Jesse's comment about Michelle sleeping with someone for money that we went and talked about ad nauseum during the season. So I'm not going down that road again. But really, at the end of the day, Michelle is the one who won. If we were having a pissing match with regards to who could, I don't know, embarrass who the most, then Michelle kind of puts Jesse on blast and accuses him of being broke and asks him who's paying his rent. We don't know the answer to that. Whether we are to infer that it is Michelle, because she later tells us that he held her to her end of the lease even after she moved out, so she was paying 2 rents. So whether it was her, and that's what she's intimating, or whether she's implying that Lacey from OC is paying the rent, I don't know. But either way, Jesse rolls his eyes, and thankfully for Jesse again, Andy moves on. You guys, this is somewhat of a trigger warning. We're going to talk about domestic violence, and I just wanted to mention that. So if you don't want to hear this, you might want to move on to the next segment. But let's talk about Jax losing his mind over Brittany hooking up with Julian. I'll let you hear it in Brittany's words.
What made me spiral.
He was extremely aggressive.
Yes.
He threw the coffee table. It landed on my knee. It turned black immediately. He threw both bar stools. He threw my Stanley Cup and broke it. He threw my phone and broke it. He threw my laptop and broke it. He threw me into the rose bushes.
I didn't throw you
yes,
into the
you
rose
did.
bushes.
It's on my Ring camera doorbell.
I never threw you into the
Yes,
rose
you
bushes.
did.
No, I
yes,
didn't.
you did. Everybody, my close friends up here has seen the videos. Yeah.
Listen, this is domestic violence. There's no other way to put it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And I think I now very clearly understand why Jax Taylor was fired. Let's not sugarcoat it and pretend that he's stepping away to focus on his blah, blah, blah. Bravo knew that there was going to be a shitstorm if they didn't take action before this aired. If this segment would have aired and there had not been an announcement about Jax not coming back to the Valley, it would have been really bad for Bravo. As it is, I'm really concerned with the fact that they aired this entire season, and it's not until episode, part 1 of the reunion, that we find out just exactly how violent these interactions were. We had heard the chair, we had heard a coffee table. That's bad enough. But breaking Stanleys and laptops and throwing her into the bushes, I'd be surprised if the state of California doesn't file charges, because in California, you don't have to press charges in order for charges to be filed against you for domestic violence. So all of these things that Brittany said obviously are alleged, and I can't say it happened one way or the other, but she seems to have a lot of people up there on that stage that back her up. And if she really does have Ring camera footage as well, who are we to argue with it? I'm ashamed of Jax Taylor for even showing his face. He should be hiding under a rock, begging for forgiveness from everybody and anybody who has ever given him the time of day. There is no room on reality TV for domestic abuse, period. The thing that actually bothered me the most is what Jax said. He said, the last thing I wanted anybody to see is how bad things got. I couldn't control it. Got it. So you don't care that you behave that way, and you had no desire to resolve the behavior. You were just upset that everybody got to see it. I get it. Let's move on. I'm getting frustrated and pissed off, and I don't want to be that way today because I'm in a good mood otherwise. Andy and Jax then discuss the mental health facility, his relapse, and the fact that he thinks that everything that he's going through is just hurt, and he masks it with anger and with drugs and with alcohol. And you just need help, dude. I don't understand why, after seeing yourself, you are not in some long-term inpatient facility. So the first part of the reunion comes to an end with Jax talking about how hard all of this is for him. Okay, victim, to do in front of everybody. Okay, so I understand that it's hard for you to be seen in a certain light, considering, how much you thought, this was your show and you were the number one guy in the group. Where are we now, sir? Because last I heard, it's not called Jax's Studio City anymore. And last I heard, Jax Taylor, Jason Couchy, is not coming back for season 3 of The Valley. So even though you find this hard to do in front of everybody, we can tell that at this very taping, everything you were doing was because you were still fighting for your life in order to try to save your job. And in my opinion, the decision was probably already made, and they just didn't say anything because they wanted you to show up for the reunion taping. Boom. We'll see what happens next week. I think that this is packed with entertainment. I didn't think that a 3-part reunion would be in order, but I'm not bored so far. So let's see what next week brings. I'll be here to bring it to you. And in the meantime, I am going to bring you up to speed on some Bravo news. We've already talked about the fact that Jax Taylor is taking a break, probably mandatory, from The Valley next season. And then last weekend, social media was all up in arms and everybody was posting pictures of the sign in front of Jax's, essentially on the sidewalk, because it had been taken down and is no longer going to be called Jax Studio City. And then shortly thereafter, Jax released an announcement, a statement saying that he was stepping away from the bar because, given his recent history, he didn't think being a bar owner was a good thing for him, yada, yada, yada. They didn't want to have anything to do with you. That's my opinion, and nobody's going to change that opinion unless they show me hard proof. So you give what you get in this world, Jax. And then we alluded to it at the beginning, but Aaron and Michelle, I know we talked about this before. There hasn't been any other word on what is going on. We know that she moved out and we know that they're no longer together, but that's all we've heard. So kudos to you guys for being able to keep it under wraps. I'm not sure what that does to next season for Michelle. I don't know. We haven't heard whether Jesse's being invited back, whether Michelle is being invited back. And, I originally thought that we were going to see a storyline about Aaron and Michelle getting engaged and all that stuff. So I was just as surprised as everybody else to find out they had broken up. Erika Jayne, she finally has a beau. Well, kinda. So all over social media were pictures of Erika Jayne and I think it's Heidi Montag's security guard, who's this very nice looking gentleman, age appropriate, that Erika's been hanging out with. Well, the internet was abuzz, ablaze, a buzz, all over the place with excitement because Erika Jayne had a boyfriend. Well, from the horse's mouth, on her podcast earlier this week, she said, everybody needs to chill out. I'm just having fun. She happened to be going to get a manicure and a pedicure with this guy who she had gone out with a couple of times and is having a good time with, and someone caught them and took a photo. Now, she doesn't want to put any tags or any labels on it. She says she's just having fun. So, as far as I'm concerned, good for you. Now, you spent a lot of time under scrutiny, and now we know you're never going to be able to get back with Tom Girardi, so I think you deserve some happiness, girl. Knock yourself out. And finally, in Bravo news, Scheana Shay's new book, My Good Side, has hit number 4 on the New York Times bestselling list. Congratulations, Scheana. I am in the middle of reading the book now, and I just want to take this opportunity to remind you that we are having a contest currently running on Instagram where we are giving away a signed copy of Scheana Shay's book. Our contest ends Monday, August 4th at 10 p.m. Pacific time. And all you need to do is follow the podcast and tell a friend. And for each of those actions, you'll receive some entries towards the book, and a winner will be drawn at random and announced on Tuesday or Wednesday. So you still have time. You have all weekend to get your entries in. And for those of you who are current followers, you can earn an entry a day by just restoring the post about the giveaway. So that's it in Bravo News. I have a quick food review for you. And that's only because I've been trying to get to this restaurant for a good 2.5 years. And it was the weirdest thing. They were just never open. So this food review is on the Savage Chef in Menifee, owned by Dylan Sorrow and opened in 2022. Now, Dylan also owned Sorrow's Grill in Old Town Temecula that just closed down, I think, at the end of last year, maybe the beginning of this year, and it was a Mediterranean place. And he also regularly places in all of the chef competitions that they have in the area. So I wanted to try it. I was curious, but for whatever reason, every time we would go, it wouldn't be open. Well, come to find it's mostly just kind of like a dinner place. And then I think they open on the weekends for brunch. So here's my quick review. My sister and I went for a dinner yesterday evening, and I was able to get a reservation quite easily. Of course, it was an early dinner, and the place was pretty packed. It doesn't seat very many people. It's a smaller place, and it looks like it has like an additional room that could probably have additional seating if necessary. But it was pretty busy. The bar was sure crowded, and I guess it's the local spot that people walk down to have a drink, because it is kind of conveniently located by some residences. So that was my takeaway as to why there were people sitting at the bar and it was so full already when they had only opened maybe an hour and a half earlier. So I'm babbling. Let me get on to the review. We walked in and were immediately greeted and immediately seated. I told them I had a reservation, and we were taken to a nice little two-top where we were given menus on a clipboard along with these little pieces of paper that had like their daily specials. And so let's start off with 20% off all bottles and glasses of wine because it was Wednesday. And then they had, I think it was 15% off of certain appetizers and shareables. And then they had a tomahawk that was $170. And all of their steaks are served a la carte. They have a 38-day dry-aged 16-ounce New York strip. That's $58. And they have a 20-ounce bone-in cowboy ribeye for $69. And then they had that big O tomahawk for $170. They also have salmon. They have a vegetarian gluten-free tofu tataki. They have a 16-ounce bone-in pork chop that'll run you about $50. And they have a cavatelli pasta, which looks to be about the least expensive thing on the menu at $20. It looks like you could get a double stacked patty melt for $19. So they have some really big salads that are all shareable, and they'll run you anywhere between $11 and $15. And then they have some good looking sides. We didn't order any, but their cavatelli mac and cheese and their truffle mac and cheese looked delicious, as did their shishito peppers. So I will go back, but I'm first going to start off with a little bit of a negative. This place is pricey. It's located in a strip mall next to Ross, by the dollar store and by Living Spaces, and there's $170 tomahawk that is served a la carte on the menu. I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit with the price points, and I understand good food is expensive these days, so I don't want to dig in too deeply, but I think you guys are maybe batting just a little bit above your average. So I'll move on. We ordered I ordered a Tito's and soda, and my sister ordered a Pinot Grigio. The Tito's and soda will set you back $13, and the Pinot Grigio was $8.80 a glass because of the discount for Wednesdays. Then we had a beef carpaccio, which happened to be one of the shareables that was being given, offered at a discount. And so it was $16, and I think it came down to $14. Let's first start with the beef carpaccio. It was gorgeous. It was presented in such a pretty way that it compelled me to take a picture. You know me and pictures of food. So the description says it's shaved beef top round, crispy gorgonzola polenta, mixed greens, lemon, truffle aioli, parmesan, and balsamic, and chives. It was served with a cornbread size, like a square cornbread size piece of this delicious polenta. And then the rounds of beef were gorgeously and thinly sliced and placed strategically kind of as a tent over the top and all the way around. Then they drizzled on the balsamic, and it had a bunch of little microgreens all over it. And there was the most delicious truffle aioli. It was just so good. My sister and I were blown away. We did not expect this level of deliciousness. And so that didn't disappoint. We, in fact, I think stopped talking mid-sentence. We took a bite, looked at each other, and then didn't talk for a few minutes until we realized that we had stopped talking in the middle of a conversation because we were so, enamored with our carpaccio. So that was delicious. And then we weren't super starving, and I'm really glad we did this. We decided to order and split the lobster BLT. That'll set you back $36. It comes with Sidewinder fries, and the description says it's a griddled split top bun with heirloom tomato, applewood smoked bacon, romaine, spiced herb aioli, and Sidewinder fries. So they bring this over already cut, which was very thoughtful because they knew we were sharing. And it is very pretty. I will post pictures of both of these things on my Instagram. But it was very pretty. It was presented very nicely. The portion was, it was an okay size. I wasn't that hungry, so it was fine. But I think if I went in there and I was really hungry and I had ordered that for $36, I would have been a little bit disappointed by the portion size. All of that to say, it was very tasty. My sister gobbled hers down while I was telling her a story, and then she told me a story, and I proceeded to try to gobble mine down. We had ordered a second round of drinks, and we were deeply involved in conversation when I came across a huge piece of cartilage that kind of, I don't want to be melodramatic, but the reason I realized it was cartilage was because it poked the roof of my mouth. And so I didn't say anything. I just pulled it out and put it to the side. But at $36, you guys, you need to do better, because I know that it's really hard to completely pick crab, especially if it's good crab and you're doing it on site. But if you're going to charge that price point, you need to live up to the price point you're charging. I'm not going to bash this place because I'm telling you, I was very impressed with the quality of the food, the tastiness of the food, a little bit underwhelmed by the price point. All of this set us back $100 out the door plus tip. We sat there and chatted for a little while longer. I'll probably go back, but it's not somewhere I'll go to on just any average Wednesday ever again. It's going to be more of a special occasion place if I want a really, really good piece of meat. The ribeye that I saw served looked delicious. And so I'll leave you with that with regards to the review, because I want to end on a high note. Savage Chef in Menifee, and that is Chef Dylan Soro, opened in 2022. I believe they open at 3 o'clock. If I remember correctly, they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, but check the internet. Don't quote me on that. So go see them at the Savage Chef in Menifee, and let me know what you think. You guys, I had a really, really good interview this week, and it'll be coming up soon. I don't know when it's coming, but it will be coming up soon. I'm very excited to bring it to you. And I will be back to continue to get us caught up on reality TV, to continue to talk to you about our summer series in Europe, and of course to cover all of the Bravo news and the food. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I had a great time bringing it to you, and I'll be back again soon. But until then, I'll be here living on the verge. Bye.